Okay, so I want to introduce to you the unit assessment, and I'm really excited about this. We've done this unit assessment every year since I've been here, and it's always worked really well. So I want to share with you where you can locate it on PowerSchool. Here we go. So on our PowerSchool page for today, whether you go to the assignment or it's on our page as well, you will see Unit 4 Bon Appetit writing and then Unit 4 Bon Appetit speaking. It is just one assignment, but I'm going to grade you on two of the skills, two of our language skills, your writing skills and your speaking skills. Okay, so that's why it's come up as two, but you have the same deadline. And when you click on it, you'll see it's the same task, the same thing that you're doing. So I'm going to click on the writing, and I've actually put the whole information in there, but I'm going to open up the task sheet paper first. Okay, so your assignment that you'll be working on for the next couple of weeks is La Recette Française, which is a French recipe. So you're going to create a cooking show video segment which showcases a French recipe. So this is going to task you in your French language skills, but it's also going to widen your French cultural experience because you're not cooking something American or Italian or Mexican, you are cooking something French. So you can choose to do this independently. You can work by yourself, get it done. Or you can work with a partner from French 2. It doesn't have to be somebody else from your class. It could be any other student from French 2 because we're all doing the same task. So it could be somebody from G1 or G2, like blended. If you choose a partner from a different class, you have to be prepared to collaborate at different times of day. If you have somebody else that's in V1, then you both know that you have 6th period for French and you can collaborate during 6th period. But if you take a G1 or G2, that's either going to be 3rd or 5th period, in which case, if you're going to collaborate, you have to collaborate on this project, then you're going to have to do it at different times of day outside of class time, and be prepared to meet up at one of your homes to do the cooking part. So it has to be somebody that it's not just your buddy, but you're comfortable during COVID times going to their home as well. So that's why this year it's either independent or with a partner. I don't mind. Early on, I would say probably by tomorrow, by the end of tomorrow's lesson, you need to have made a decision on what your recipe is and if you're working by yourself or with a partner. Okay. So you will need to choose a recipe, and the recipe is in English. There are 2 websites that I want you to look at, and we probably won't have time in lesson today, but in the next lesson, or you could do it at home if you wanted as homework, but at least within the next lesson, to have a look at some of the easy French recipes from those 2 websites, and then you're going to choose one, and I need to approve it. So most of the recipes in there are simple, but some of them are a little complicated, and it really is up to you how you feel. Like some of you must be like, yes, I love baking, and so you are more than happy to pick something challenging. And some of you are totally terrified because you don't ever go in the kitchen, and so we need to make sure that whatever you're choosing, it is going to be achievable to do in this time and not going to stress you out or cause you to yeah, have a mental breakdown or break the bank, because some of the recipes can be expensive. So we're going to keep it simple. I am going to, if you've got questions, keep them coming in the chat, but I'm going to keep going, and maybe as I go, I'll answer your question, and then I'll come back to them at the end. So you will use everything that you've learned in the unit so far about cooking directions, about food, to translate the recipe into English. So that is one part of your grade. The recipe itself is a grade. Then you will create a script for your cooking show. So you're not just going to submit the recipe, but you're going to write a script where you are talking through this recipe to the camera. And that is another part of your written grade. So recipe and script, both in writing. Finally, you will make the recipe. That, whether you make it well or not, is not a part of your grade because we're not a cooking class. It doesn't have to taste good. You could burn it for all I care. But what I want to see is that you record yourself cooking it. And throughout that cooking and throughout your video, you are speaking in French. So the third part will be your speaking grade. You're speaking in French. So choose something that is simple, fairly simple, and simple is relative, like I said, and inexpensive to make. Some of these recipes do not have to be complicated. It could be a sandwich, it could be a salad, it could be les crêpes, which have like 3 or 4 ingredients in it. You are going to do this part in your own time. You can do all the baking or the cooking during a French class period because you are at home. So that's different to previous years because now you're at home more. So you have more access to the kitchen to be able to do this. Or you can do it outside of school hours. And if you're collaborating with somebody that doesn't have 6 periods with you, then it has to be outside of class time, right? You have to do it on an evening or a weekend, which is also fine. This doesn't really apply to you so much because you're fully virtual. You would never be coming into the building, but so that I know, as part of a show, at the end of a cooking show, people eat the food. So at the end of your video, I expect to see you sample your product and include a guest on your show, like at the end. So your mom, your dad, your little sibling, whoever it is, a friend, have somebody sample it and express their opinion as well. They do not have to speak French. You have to speak French. That's your grade, your part of the grade. And you can teach them something if you wanted, but they don't have to speak French. Okay, then once you've done that recording, make sure that it's uploaded to YouTube or something similar so that I can access it and I can watch it and give you that grade. If I don't have the video with an audible sound for the speaking, you can't get a speaking grade. You can choose to edit the video if you wish. So some people, like my videos that I'm doing right now, is going to come through unedited because I don't have time for that. I don't have all the skills for that. So you do not have to have your video edited, but some people love doing that. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll show you previous years' students, the things that they have done, so you can get some ideas if you wanted. And all of you, again, vary in your skills. But if you do that, plan in time for that. Your deadline is Thursday, the 18th of February. So that's 2 weeks tomorrow. So you will almost have every single class period between now and the next 2 weeks, almost, to work on this. Okay, and I'm going to set mini deadlines for you to draft, to turn in a draft of your recipe and of your script so I can give you feedback, so I can make sure you're on the right track. But other than that, you're going to be working independently. So at the end, in the second page, this is just your, I always want to give students as much idea of how much time you have to do in lessons. So it's not homework. If you work during the class period, you should be able to achieve this. So today is lesson 1, where I'm introducing the unit assessment to you. Probably because of our time, we don't have a lot of time to brainstorm ideas. If you're a G2 watching this video, you will. So start clicking on the links, and I'll do this in a moment, and looking through recipes and choosing a recipe and getting my approval for it. So this is each day as we go through each week. how many lessons that you have, and what I'm looking for in the final submission. As we get closer to the end, there's a lot of independent work, and so you need to be on top of if you need a whole lesson to edit or not. If you don't get it done within class time, then you're giving yourself homework and weekends to work on it. The only lesson that I will not give you to work on this project is lesson 6, because it's close to Valentine's Day and I want us to have a little break. It's about halfway through. I want us to have a break from the project and just do something fun in class together. And then the rest of the time, apart from weekend chats on Mondays, you will have time to work on this. All right, so keep the questions coming in the chat. You do have to make the food and you do have to record it. And the people sampling your food can be anybody. Yes, it can be, I've seen it in the past where somebody's like 2-year-old little brother tried the food. So whatever, it can be anybody. And I'm going to go back to on the written assignment. This is what the rubric looks like. Just so you're aware, I want you to go ahead and read it in your own time. But you've seen this kind of rubric before. This is where we're going for your writing is understandable despite some errors. So at no point in writing this recipe should you be using Google Translate. If I see complicated language that we have not been using recently learned words, then I'm going to fail you. So make sure that you have turned it in as a draft, firstly, because it's better to fail a draft than it is the final. Or just make sure that you're using what we've been learning in class. Of course, there's going to be some words that you come across which we haven't learned in class, depending on your recipe. So it's okay to look up an individual word or two using an online dictionary. That's okay. Do that in your draft. I can check it because some people have issues, and this is understandable, but some people get confused when they look up a word, whether it's a noun or a verb, or they don't look at all the meanings of that of what that word is, so they choose the wrong one. And so it isn't understandable. So then you don't, and you're not using this and it's not understandable. So the drafting phase is so important. You have to turn it in. I don't want to wait until the 18th of February, get some things which are incomprehensible and translated, and then you fail, and it's such a shame. So do the drafting for your writing. And we'll look at this as we go. If we've already done a couple of translations so far this unit. One of them you did on this template. You could use this template again. You're going to write your ingredients, write the directions, put the title of it, everything. You could use this template if you want. You don't have to. It would be nice and simple. And so this is going to be one part of your grade. Yes, the written recipe. So in the writing, you're going to get a grade here for the recipe and the script. Even if you never even ended up making it, you'd get a grade for the recipe and the script. Okay. Then the second part of, oops, clicked on the same thing. The second part of the assessment is the YouTube link for your cooking segment. So this is your speaking grade. So same task, different rubric. So you're speaking, I'm looking at your pronunciation, whether you're clarifying and correcting yourself. Like say you're talking into the camera and you make a little mistake, you're like, oh, il y a deux œufs. And actually then you look down and you don't have 2 eggs, you have 3 eggs. So you correct yourself and say, oh, 3 œufs. That's fine, that's a correction. Don't edit it out, don't stress about it. That you can still get an A+ for because you're correcting yourself. Okay, so as you're going through, try and make it as natural as possible. And yes, everything needs to be in French, so you need to practice and keep it simple. one of the questions is, do we need to say measurements in French, like 1/4, or yes, you do. Yes, you do. So we've learned some measurements, like we've learned cups, and then maybe some of the other things will be like large numbers, like 100 grams or something. We need to prepare for that. So you know some of the numbers. If you're in a classroom, of course, you know that we have all the numbers up behind us, which makes it real simple. But I'll help you. So I want you to draft, write it out. I will give you some guidance and I will help you with those things. And then I'll also help you with things like pronunciation. Okay. So it is a challenge. If you are doing this with a partner, you're going to turn in the same recipe and the same script. You work on that together. You work on the cooking together, but you might get slightly different speaking grades. You both need to speak in front of the camera to get that grade. If you work on it with somebody and one person's doing all the camera work and the other person's in front, then I'm only hearing that person in front speaking French. So you can swap, or you can both do it together and have somebody else record you. That's up to you. Again, in the past, I've had students work in groups, and so I've got multiple videos of students doing it both ways. And if you're not sure, ask me. Let's plan, let's prepare, and know what you're doing. Okay. Any other questions coming in? There is, let me stop sharing this and go back to sharing this. So the first step that we're going to work on, and you're going to start working on it tomorrow, is traduction de recettes, the translation of the recipe. So you're going to have chosen a recipe from a website like this, and then you're going to work on translating it. That's probably going to be the largest amount of your time, effort, energy, is making the, sorry for hitting the microphone, is writing the recipe in French. Once you've done that, the next step, we'll take that recipe and we'll create it into a script. So if you've got two people, it might look something like this. Bonjour Céline, or bonjour Pierre, bonjour Céline. Aujourd'hui, nous allons cuisiner le camembert au thym et l'ail. So introducing what you're actually doing. If your video just pans straight to a piece of cheese and I don't see you, you don't introduce yourself, and you don't introduce what you're making, then you don't have an introduction. So the script is important for the introduction, and just that little bit of French, like, oh, c'est très intéressant, qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans cette recette? And then, il y a le camembert, une gousse d'ail, une branche de thym. This is listing everything that you have in your recipe. So you can use your recipe and repeat the same stuff in your script. So this is the second step, the script, and we'll come to that next week. There is a little video example of Pierre cooking les crêpes, but we know it doesn't work too well over Zoom. So what I'm going to do is get this YouTube link and I will share it with you on PowerSchool. Okay, let's see if I can. I'll try and do it through the chat now as well, and then you can watch it later, because it's not going to work so well. Okay, so you can watch that in your own time, and like I said, I'm gonna show you previous year's examples as well. Okay, so if you are in a regular class period, a 50-minute class period, then today I want you to go on those links for the websites, brainstorm ideas for your project. Are you going to work by yourself? Are you planning on working with a partner? And what are you planning on, what recipe are you planning on doing? Okay, for those of you who are here with me on Zoom now, we don't have the time for that, so I'm going to talk to you about something different. All right.